me, Mario.
Be careful, it's a trap!
You were close.
Emergency maneuvers!
I am the Lord of Deadside.
I saw my life flash before my eyes! Sorry to jet, but I'm in a hurry.
Hello and welcome to Strictly 64. I'm your host Kay and I'm joined today by Clay. How you doing, mate?
Good. How you doing?
Yeah, pretty good, man. Not too bad. Before we get into the main topic this week, we got a little bit of off-topic news. By the time this episode goes live, this will actually be a little bit old. But Kay, I'm talking to myself here. Clay, do you want to tell the people at home about the Super Mario 64 maker?
Yes. So this was, I guess, just released today, but it's something that has been teased or talked about in the past, but it's just finally now released and available for download. So basically it's Super Mario 64 Maker, which I don't really like the name that way. I think it should be Super Mario Maker 64. Not Super Mario 64 Maker, but whatever. So it's basically a ROM that you can play on your computer where you can design your own Mario 64 levels. And so there was a video that was released with it. I've watched the video, but have yet to download it. The video is pretty short and just shows very quickly him making a lava level, and then very quickly you just testing it and showing you that you can play through it. So there's not really a lot to the UI as far as you can see in the video. It looks like you kind of just scroll through objects and baddies, and then you can like change them and make them bigger and move them around and stuff. So it seems simple. I don't really know if there's a way to share your levels or how that works, or if you can make multiple levels strand together, or if this is just version 1 and there'll be more added later or whatnot. So I'm not entirely sure. I guess I need to download it and figure it out. But as far as watching him play through the level that he just created, I thought it looked pretty smooth and didn't look very buggy. He tried a couple different objects, like a triangle pyramid little thing that, I don't know, it all just seemed to work pretty well. So I was pretty impressed, actually.
Yeah, cool. I mean, Kay is obviously one of the most famous Mario 64 hackers. He was the one who made Mario 64 Last Impact. I don't know if you played that one yet.
Nope.
Okay, yeah, excellent game. I never got actually too far in it. I downloaded it, played it for a couple of hours on my old computer, and then I never bothered, re-downloading it. This has kind of got me thinking I might want to go back to that actually. But yeah, no, this creation kit looks really cool, and much like yourself, I haven't had time to check it out myself yet. But I look forward to giving it a crack and seeing what we can come up with. If it's as easy to use as it looks, then hopefully we can like share levels with each other and try and outdo each other.
I wonder if you could just send a ROM to somebody and it would just immediately load the level or start the level, and you could just play it from there. But I would imagine if that's not an option, it would be eventually. So and also I think it's worth noting that this probably won't last long. As soon as this kind of stuff gets mainstream attention, it isn't very long before Nintendo comes along to shut them down. So they took down the public release of Last Impact, got took down pretty quick last year. Really?
Which to me, that's like, I don't know, I really don't like the way Nintendo treats fan games, because if it's something that they wouldn't make money on anyway, I don't get it. Like the Metroid 2 thing I understand because they had their own remake in the works, but I severely doubt they are ever going to make a Mario 64 level like editor tool.
Right.
So I think this stuff, they should do what Sega does, just let the fans get on with it, as long as it's not taken away from anything they're currently selling. I don't think it's a big deal, personally.
Yeah, I agree.
So, but anyway, we're not here to talk about a Nintendo game this week. We're here to talk about a very different game. And I just have to say to the audience at home, I'm sorry. I'm very, very sorry. Every now and again, a podcast has to cover something that they really don't want to cover. And obviously we were forced into this. It's not like we just pick our own games, but yeah, let's just bite the bullet and get this one done with. This is the Powerpuff Girls Chemical Extraction. Okay, now to kick off this episode, we are each going to take a brief moment, and it is going to be very brief, to give our overall thoughts on the game, as well as mentioning our history and past experience with the game. Clay, start us off.
Alright, well, this was a game that I never played back when it first released, and so this was something that I didn't get my hands on until much later. I purchased it last year at some point, I think, and had been holding on to it. I saw a video review of it when I was, picking up games or whatever. And so for whatever reason, I don't remember. I rewatched the video recently, the video review, and it just tells you how bad of a game it was. But for some reason, I completely forgot that it was a terrible game. So A, I went out and bought it because of course I did. And B, I was like, oh, this might be a fun one to review one day because it's, a game about a TV show and not really tied to anything. So all I remember was seeing a video of it and thinking, oh, it kind of looks like Super Smash Bros. So maybe it'll be cool. I'm a fan of, Power Stone. I think those are great games. And so I was like, yeah, I'm all for, kind of a beat 'em up. And I think the show kind of would work well with that. So I had hopeful, thoughts. I was hopeful that it was going to be good going in. And then very, very quickly realized, oh no, what have I done volunteering us to play this game? And so, yeah, you had asked me, we just need an easy game to fill this week because we have a bigger game next week and just something we can enjoy. And yeah, I screwed up on that one. Found something way worse, I guess. So overall, my overall thoughts of this game, it's For being one of the later and one of the last games for the N64, it is not very good. And even if you're a fan of the show, I don't know if this is for you. But those are just some of my overall thoughts.
Okay, interesting. I'd never heard of this game until about a month ago. It wasn't released in Europe, so I'd never seen it, heard it, or played it. Played it for less than an hour this week. And I'm never going to play it again. Those are my initial thoughts. So let's have a look behind the scenes. Okay, we're now going to have a look at some interesting facts and tidbits about the making of the game and see what we can find out behind the scenes. Clay?
All right, I think this is probably going to win the award for the least amount of information I could find about the game. Scoured the web and I found some information on the Powerpuff Girls wiki, but the regular Wikipedia page for it was even less. And so looked around IGN, a couple other places, and was really coming up with not much. So one thing we do know is this game was developed by VIS Entertainment and Asylum Entertainment, and it was published by BAM Entertainment.
There's a lot of entertainment there.
So much
Shame none of that could transfer to the game itself. It was released in North America for the N64 on October 14th, 2001, and later for the Sony PlayStation on November 18th, 2001. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't November 18th the launch day of the GameCube and the Xbox in North America?
I believe so.
I wonder how well this sold.
Yeah. In fact, I'm looking at it right here. There were only 3 games released for the N64 after this one. And that was Razor Freestyle Scooter and then the last 2 Tony Hawk games. So this was the 4th to last game ever released for the system. And,
Wow.
that's worth noting. I was also looking at the studios that developed these VIS Entertainment. I don't know how you say it. They've made a number of games. Earthworm Jim 3D they made for the N64. Tom and Jerry in Fists of Fury for the N64, which is a very similar game from what I've seen to this game. Then they also went on to make another Powerpuff game called Relish Rampage for GameCube and PS2. And then they made a couple other games, and it doesn't look like they've made anything since 2005.
I'm shocked, mate.
Yeah, right. Jeez. And then Asylum Entertainment, there's nothing popping up for them, so not entirely sure what that's all about. So, yeah, that's about all of the... it seems like everything that came out late in the N64 is not very well documented. Like the Tony Hawk games, no one really cared about the development for the N64 versions by that point. They were kind of like, the tail end, games that no one cared about.
Right, yeah.
I guess one positive thing about this, sorry to cut you off, is I guess it's a good thing that this came out for the N64 before it did the PlayStation, which a lot of the games we've been talking about was the other way around. So that's something, I guess. But it was only like by a month.
With this game, though.
Yeah, no. But I don't know a lot about the PlayStation version, but from what I heard, it's really not that much better. There were a couple things the PlayStation version had that the N64 one didn't. Mostly, voiceover work and opening cutscenes, and I think there were a couple additional moves, but I think they were both just not well perceived at all. So
no. Okay, all right. Well, no point dragging our heels. Let's move on to something I know you're desperate to talk about, and that is the presentation of this game. Alright, it's now time for us to talk about the presentation of the game. Visual presentation covers polygons, sprites, textures, draw distance and frame rate, whilst audio includes music, sound effects and the voice acting of the game. So Clay, talk us through the visual dynamic masterpiece that is Chemical Extraction.
Alright, well, to not give too much away, basically as you're playing through this, basically you're in these smaller arena areas, I guess you could say, and it's just they're not very big areas, and so right off the bat it just seems kind of cramped. I think they almost had a really cool art style with the characters of this game. There's certain things about them when I look at them that I'm like, hey, that kind of looks neat. Like there's some strong dark lines on certain parts, and it looks really cartoonish. Almost has a vibe of the character models from South Park. But obviously, it's also a cartoon that they've tried to turn into 3D models. But yeah, the whole dark lines on certain parts of the features I think is pretty cool, but they don't do it on every part of the character, so I don't know, it just some parts look jankier than others. So I would say the character models are not super good. Like I know the Medusa girl lady, I can't remember what is her name. It's right here, Sedusa. She has a lot going on with her hair, and it just looks like a pixely mess, and it's just too much. So I think there were certain parts where I think they went a little too detailed. So as far as the arena itself, which was what I was kind of getting at the beginning, I do think that the overall area and the items that you can pick up look decent. Even if they are too small and there's really not a lot of open area, I still think that the textures, even though they're pretty cartoony, so they're not going realistic, I think it works well, if not only for that reason alone. But I think a lot of the character models just look pretty rough, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Well, what I was going to say, yeah, in regards to the character models themselves, I think the models of the Powerpuff Girls are probably the best thing about the game. Like, you know, they look alright. They don't look great, but they look alright. And kind of like, it's funny you mentioned South Park, because on the corner of the screen during each stage, you've got like the, you know, there's like an image of the classic Cartoon Network look of the characters, much like, you know, South Park did. So that was kind of cool. Texture wise, though, I've got to say everything looks rubbish. Like, the characters look okay, but like, you know, all the items that were strewn around each stage.
Yes, of course. It's littered with them. Yeah. They
just look horrendous. Like, there's no detail to anything. Like, everything's like, it's almost like a solid polygon coloured in.
Right.
Yeah. And I mean, okay, yeah, another plus you could say is there's no fogging, but, you know, when the levels are about 3 meters wide.
Yeah, that was the one positive thing is small levels. Hey, we don't have to worry about draw distance. You can see everything. So
yeah. Did you notice any frame rate drops?
That's a good question.
Because I'll say I did when I threw items.
Yeah.
Like when the items smashed on characters, it seemed to always judder a little bit.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, let's see. What else was there? Yeah, I'm trying to think visually. What else? The menus themselves look pretty good, actually. I think they look pretty, I don't know, fitting for the game, I guess you could say. I don't think they went over the top with like ridiculous fonts or anything kind of like Clay Fighter did. I think the opening cutscene is a little bit lackluster. It's literally like white text with a black background, with a couple images of a pie and some chemical X.
Who would have white text on a black background?
Yeah, geez, that's no place for a logo. But I mean, the menu itself has Townsville behind it, and so it looks pretty good. The overall world map, I think, looks pretty good actually. With all the trees and stuff, I think it works. I think it's got a kind of, more of a cartoony feel, obviously, and so those parts aren't bad. Each level itself is a bit more distinct. Mojo Jojo's lair is very blue, and then you got like this like redneck dump area with a trailer house and stuff and garbage. Yeah, so there's some variety there. I don't think it's like a overly bland game. Maybe some of the levels, but
I do.
You think it's visually bland?
Yeah, I think it's ugly. I think the character models themselves look good, but the levels are just, I don't know. I just find them really bland, personally.
I think if the gameplay was stronger, it wouldn't bother you as much. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe they're just sticking to the source material, so you kind of only have what you got. So
well, that's true. I mean, in the animated series, like, I guess the backgrounds are all really bland. It's only the characters that pop. So I guess they could use that as an excuse to say they were being true to the series.
Yeah.
So how about that music, dude?
All right. Yes. It was pretty annoying, and realized really quickly that my volume was really loud, and I think that's actually a pretty good way to realize very quickly if a game has good music or not, is if you turn the volume up really loud, how long does it take before you're like, good Lord, please turn that down? And yeah, so it was very quickly, I was like, all right, I'm going to go ahead and turn this down because I think I'm going to annoy my wife very quickly. The only other thing I noticed about it, at least kind of at the beginning, is it just repeats very quickly. There didn't seem to be a lot of it. It seemed very short. I don't know if you agree with that.
There's only one song in the whole game, dude.
Is it really?
Yeah, just the main theme from the series just plays on a loop over and over.
Bum, 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 bum. Yeah, you're right.
This is one of those games.
Yeah. Oof. I mean, yeah, and I guess it's good at least that they got the song from the show, unlike, Bug's Life, where it's just completely random music that maybe fits kind of with the game. But yeah, there definitely could have been more variety. The fact that there's not a different song for each level baffles me, because you've got these such, wide variety of levels. You could have had like a bluegrass song for the redneck level. When you're fighting Mojo Jojo in his watchtower, you could have had a more like science sounding one. The schoolhouse could have had a more yeah, that's a way big flaw. Yeah. And yeah, luckily you can turn it off. I did notice that in the options. You do have the ability to turn the music down, but it's not even worth it. So
No.
Sound effects wise though, I guess it's kind of a mixed bag. For a fighting game, there's quite a few, but I think because this game requires such constant spamming the attack button, you're just constantly hearing ow, oh, ow, ooh, ooh, over and over. And yeah, it's just it gets a little annoying, almost as repetitive as the music itself. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I would agree. It's one of those games where the sound design actually sort of puts me to sleep. So
I do like the sound effect when you're flying around, though. I think that was kind of cool, even though I was constantly spamming that in my attack.
Yeah, you got to get used to that, haven't you? Because that's the only attack that even does anything. I mean, we'll cover that in the next section.
Right, but you use it a lot, so it's just over and over. But yeah, if you want to see what we're talking about, find some game footage with the volume, because ours won't have it, obviously, but because it would drive you absolutely nuts. But which, by the way, are you gonna just play that one theme song the entire episode over and over and over?
Well, I would do, but I can't find a copy of it anywhere online.
Really?
Like anywhere? Like no one's even uploaded it onto YouTube. Like
nobody cares.
Can you rip audio yourself?
Yeah, I would just. It's the menu theme too, right? So I could just hold it at the menu and
to record like an hour of that.
Yeah, I could just walk away and leave it. Come back to it. Yeah, I could do that. That's fine. Just so I don't want our listeners to miss out on what an amazing opportunity this would be to hear it,
Yeah.
Other than that, I don't think there really is any. Is there any voice from like the Powerpuff Girls themselves? Do they actually say anything?
I didn't notice them saying anything.
I mean, they make noises when they get hit, like they cry out, but I don't know if they actually even have any like lines.
No, like,
and like the bad guys would be like, "No!" when you hit them and stuff. But
I'm trying to think. I don't want to get mixed up because I watched. Sorry, I got to be honest. I watched a PlayStation Let's Play as well to look at the difference. Right. And the PlayStation version did have voices, but I'm pretty sure the N64 one didn't.
Yep. Yeah.
So it's like Bug's Life again, where Bug's Life actually had a few, but I think in this case they stripped all the... Because they didn't even have the announcer on this one, did they?
Nope, there's no announcer.
Yeah, right, yeah. That's in the PS version, yeah. Okay. So, yeah, even less... Might as well strike that one off. Voice acting. You can't count the occasional grunt of voice acting.
I mean, the girls say ow. I guess that would constitute as a word. But outside of ow... Yeah, that's... Because when you beat the level, they kind of have like a little celebration, which would be like the perfect time for them to say something. And they just smile and say nothing. So, missed opportunity, but hey, N64...
Okay then, now we're going to discuss the overall gameplay and the mechanics of the game. This includes the overall objective and the narrative of the game, as well as the controls, menus, and the feel of the game itself. So, Clay, do you want to run us through the story? Maybe a little bit of background on the animated series for anyone who's not familiar with the actual plot of the show itself?
Sure. Why not? So, for those of you who don't know, the Powerpuff Girls is a TV show from Cartoon Network. And so, at the beginning of every episode, they very quickly kind of give you the backstory of, how the Powerpuff Girls came to be. And basically, what's the professor's name? Do you remember? I forget.
I remember they always just call him Professor.
It's Utonium. Professor Utonium. Yeah, he is, for some reason, creating daughters, I guess. And so, while he's creating these test tube girls, he accidentally spills chemical X into his concoction, and creates the Powerpuff Girls, and they are super hero girls. They have super strength. They can fly. I think they have like heat ray vision. I'm trying to remember if there's any other powers. I think they just like randomly will have powers come and go. Maybe like ice breath or something. I can't remember. Anyway, and so yeah, that's kind of the backstory of them. It's not really an in-depth thing. But in this game, there's not a very deep story at all, to be honest. It's quite simple, and basically in the game, the girls bake a perfect pie, but then Bubbles, for some reason, stupid Bubbles, decides to add chemical X to make it that much more super, I guess. Which then Mojo Jojo decides to take it and feed it to all the villains and bullies in Townsville. So then the girls must fight every bad guy in Townsville and retrieve all the chemical X before it's too late. So yes, they after the chemical X is ingested, they must go around beating and assaulting bad guys so hard that they lose the chemical X that is within their body.
Puke it up into like a beaker.
Yeah, which is not easy to get a villain to do. Trust me, I've tried.
Right.
So yeah, what a storyline right there, man. It's some heavy stuff.
Yeah. So I mean, if you don't mind me taking it from here a little bit.
If I can just add, I feel
okay.
like there. Are you wanting to talk more about the storyline?
No. But I was gonna naturally progress into the objective.
Well,
but
don't do that. I just wanted to add this one thing, and it's probably like killed the moment now, but I feel like they were all sitting around going, we really need to come up with a storyline for this. We know we just want it to be a fighting game. And I think there was somebody sitting there eating a piece of pie, and they're like, well, the girls could make a pie. And they're like, brilliant, let's roll with it. We don't have time for this. So, yeah.
Okay, well,
weak.
Thing is, with the animated series, now I haven't seen a great deal of it, but I saw a few when I was a child, and I watched a couple episodes today to sort of get me back in that mindset. The thing is, the series itself has like intentionally bad plots. Like they're the stupidest plots, because it's kind of self-satire, which is fine, right? So that's okay.
Right.
I don't actually have a problem with the story for this game, but the problem with me is like, I think the story could have lent itself fine to a platform adventure. And what I don't get is like, they could have just had levels of like, the girls heading off through the town to try and, find the villains that had the chemical X. And like, these fights could have been boss battles at the end of like interesting platform stages. Why did they decide to make it a brawler, and not a very good brawler at that? Like,
yeah,
because they had, right, it's not like we're talking a conversion for something like Clay Fighter or Super Smash Bros. This game actually does have a 3D engine, because the stages themselves, it's 3D, isn't it? You can move all around. So they had these physics locked down. Why didn't they just take that and apply it to like platforming stages?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I don't know what you think about
yeah,
that.
my thought would be that I think originally it was going to be some sort of 3D beat 'em up, where you go through different stages, and it's it would still be pretty linear, you know, kind of like a Ninja Turtles, but more 3D. And then I think they realize, hey, we're about to miss our, window, and so we just need to put this thing out. So let's just make it an arcade fighter. We'll do simple levels, because these things that you can pick up and or throw at bad guys seem like the kind of things you would find in like a Ninja Turtles kind of level, but but instead they like overpopulated these small rooms with them instead. But I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me if there was a bigger goal for this all, and then eventually they had to just kind of simplify everything and get it out the door due to the fact that it is like the fourth last game for the system. I don't know. I can't tell which one feels more empty to me, this game or Clay Fighter, because they both just seem, there's like one, maybe two modes, and that's it. And there's a very small amount of levels, and that's it.
This one feels the most empty to me. I'm sorry, but like Clay Fighter, at least it had its charming aesthetic and voice acting. And like, okay, yeah, it wasn't a very big game, but I don't know, to me the charm kind of made up for a little bit. Whereas this, you're taking what is actually a very entertaining children's animated show and just stripping it of anything that makes it fun. So, I don't know. But I do agree with your theory. It probably started development as more of a brawler, like a, stage-based brawler, rather than just, one-on-one fight.
Right.
But like, that kind of brings us to another problem. Like you say, they probably had a time crunch and they had to get it out quick. Mm-hmm. But like, the show started in, what was it, like fall 1998, and the show peaked in popularity from like 99 to 2000. This game feels like it was developed in about 6 months, so let's be generous and say they started at the beginning of 2001. Like, why weren't they working on this game 2 years earlier?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like,
timing was not good.
Let's say when the show peaked, let's say summer 99, they could have started development then and gotten out a half-decent action game by Christmas 2000. But,
yep.
What are you going to do?
But hey, no, let's not do that. Let's wait until not only is the popularity of the show declined, but also the popularity of the console.
Right, yeah. It just... it beggars belief, doesn't it? I don't know. Anyway, I mean, you've already mentioned the menus. There's not a lot up to the menus. Isn't it literally just like single player, multiplayer, and options?
Yep. Yeah, it's literally the single player, and then you can play with friends and play as whatever character you want. That's
Which is interesting. They call it simulator, so I guess that's meant to be like in universe. It's meant to be like a VR or something. It's simulating battles,
right?
But the main game is you just click on it, it boots up, and then you choose between one of the Powerpuff Girls, and they've got like a percentage next to them. So I'm guessing like completed as all 3 characters, and you might unlock something extra. I don't know if you do, and I don't think we're interested in finding that out either.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, before we talk about the controls specifically, I've just got to say about this gameplay though. We've danced around it. We haven't actually tackled it head on. The gameplay on paper should work, but in execution, to me, it just falls apart. It's not fun to play. The flight power is alright, but it seems too nerfed. And the ground attacks do nothing. Was it just me, or like when you're trying to punch the enemies, you can't get a proper hit in, and they overpower you really quickly on the ground?
Yeah, I experienced that as well. The only thing I found with like ground like punches and kicks or whatever is if you did get in there and catch them off guard or something, you could just continually spam the attack button. Especially in the earlier levels, it was a little bit easier, and you could just like back them into a corner, and they like couldn't get out of it. And so that was the only thing I found it useful for, is that you could like get them in this repetitive cycle, and then they couldn't really, fight back from it. But other than that, it like really doesn't do much damage. So.
Okay. And I mean, that sort of brings us into the controls. It's pretty much just like the Z trigger with jump and fly.
Yeah, what the heck, dude? That took me like 5 minutes to figure it out. I'm like, why is there no jumping in this game? And then finally, yeah, stupid me, try the Z button. Duh. That's where all jumps should be.
What were they thinking? Like, I could understand, okay, they didn't want to put on A or B because it's a focused brawler. Why not do what Smash does and assign it to the C buttons?
Yeah. I don't know. It was a bad idea. By the way, I could never figure out how to pick things up. How the heck do you do that?
C buttons.
See, I tried that and it didn't work.
Oh, it worked for me. I mean, I just mashed them. Maybe it's specifically one of them, but I mashed
just
C
mashed them.
buttons.
So
Yeah,
you
I
don't
literally.
even know.
No, I mean, bear in mind, obviously, this game was never released here, so I actually played it on an emulator. Naughty me. But I assigned the C buttons to the D-pad directions, which I do for a lot of games.
Right.
And I literally just mashed the D-pad and she started picking stuff up, so...
Yeah, I just kept kicking things, and I was like, why can I not pick these up? But I couldn't go stand over an item and like try to figure it out because the other character would just come over and start punching me in the face.
What I'd suggest is start up the simulation mode with, 2-player, but, just have the second controller, and then you can practice. Well, I would suggest that, but I bet you are not going to play this for the rest of your life, so there's no point making a suggestion now. I don't know, dude. What do you want me to say?
The controls are not well assigned.
No. And you got I suppose one good thing you could say about the game is pretty much all the classic characters from the TV series are here. Obviously you got the 3 Powerpuff Girls, and you've got Mojo Jojo, Fuzzy Lumpkins, all the gang.
Yeah, and I will say, for the show and for this game, I do think that the villains are probably the strongest part. They're kind of my favorite part. Maybe not some of these, like Princess Morbucks and stuff, but I love Mojo Jojo, and unlocking him and playing with him was actually kind of exciting for about 5 minutes. Then I was like, oh yeah, he just controls like everyone else. But yeah, I do think the villains are kind of cool, and I at least enjoyed beating them up, I guess. So
I've got to say, Seducer is actually a really good pun, and I'm surprised that ever made it into past the censors. That's a pretty risque joke for a children's TV series.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, and they also had him, who was Satan, and he was a pretty colorful fellow. So there was quite a few things even in this show that they were still getting away with that they might not get away with nowadays. So
yeah. Do you want to talk about the various stages?
Yeah, so you start off in Townsville City Hall, which is where the mayor lives, obviously. And so you start out there. The next level is a bank where there's an open vault. You throw gold at people and, kill them with gold. There's the Townsville Jail. There's also the Townsville City Dump, which is full of garbage. There's Fuzzy Lumpkin Shack, where you can throw a banjo at him. There is Him's Lair. There is Mojo's Volcano Top Observatory. There is Professor Utonium's lab. See, I haven't even played all these levels, so there must be a way to unlock some of these, which I never found anything about, unlocking other levels. I wonder if you have to beat it with all 3 of the girls to unlock some of these.
Probably.
The Powerpuff Girls bedroom, and the Pokey Oaks kindergarten. So really exciting stuff. Obviously, they're from the TV show. So
you know what I gotta say. What is really interesting, before we wrap this up, actually, is I found this game super difficult, and I was playing on easy mode. I'm assuming you did as well.
Yep.
Right. I was watching some YouTube videos for this game, and on one of them there was this woman who commented, probably about our age, and she said, "Why does everyone hate this game? I think it's awesome." And I thought, I bet she was that little girl who got this for Christmas and it was like the only game she had. So she just got super good at it. And I bet she is one of the only people in the world who actually unlocked these levels.
Yeah, no
I think,
kidding.
like, what kind of person would actually sit there and play this, like, if they had other games to choose from? Because it's not like if you had Clay Fighter, okay, we've got issues with that game, but at least for what it is trying to be, a tournament fighter, it's not too bad, and you can get some fun out of it. But this, I'm sorry, I can't see a point of it existing, let alone. You know. Sorry, I'm being overly negative, but
No, it's fine. I totally agree. It's unfortunate. So.
Okay then, Clay, give me your final thoughts and verdict on this game.
Well, similar to South Park, it is unfortunate because there is decent, original content. Original as in it's from the TV show. I think the TV show is decent. It's pretty good. I enjoy it. I enjoyed it as a kid, and so I think that there was potential with it. I don't know what the other games that they've made for the series are like. I assume they had to be better than this. So yeah, it's unfortunate. I know we were talking about, what we thought they could have done with it and what they really got in the end is unfortunate. I would say stay away from this game. It's rough. The first 5 minutes I was playing it was awful. As I played it a little bit more, I realized kind of how to mess with it to make it, work. But overall, I don't feel like I was ever playing it the way it was intended to be played, and that was the only way I was even able to play all the way through it with one of the characters. So I think we've made it pretty clear that this is a pretty garbage game, if not probably the worst game that we've played so far. So
okay, thanks for that. So I've got to say, this game moved me in a way that I didn't expect. This game moved me to decide that we need to stop playing bad games on this show, okay? Now, when we started Strictly 64, we weren't sure exactly what we were going to do, what our aim was, We knew we just loved N64 and we wanted to talk about these games. And early on, you made the suggestion, hey, we need to cover some more sort of, D-list titles that not everyone talks about to try and mix it up a little bit, which I agree with. And, games like Chameleon Twist were interesting to look at, and there's been a couple sort of I haven't thought too highly of, like A Bug's Life, but there has never been a game that actively made me think I don't want to do this anymore. And that was the Powerpuff Girls Chemical Extraction. It is an abomination, and it's made me decide, look, we're not the angry video game nerd. We can't keep focusing on these bad games.
No, and I agree, because the whole point of this is to have fun and enjoy the console and celebrate it. But on the other hand, I also don't want to get through all of the good games too quick. So I do enjoy having a bad one here and there, but I agree. Unfortunately, the way it worked out was we had these two, back to back, and I agree, it is too much. And if I had known how bad this was, if I'd even played this for 10 minutes when I first bought it, I probably wouldn't have suggested it for this week. But no, I agree. We need some better games, and I really hope next week brings a better game for us.
Well, I think the problem with this game really is that it's not, you get some games and movies and stuff where they're so bad they're good, where there's something to talk about and there's something to have fun with. And a lot of, I just mentioned, the angry video game nerd. Obviously anyone listens to this will know who he is. He always finds these games where sort of so bad they're good and there's something to get out of it. But this, I just think that what was so bad about it was just so utterly bland. It was a bad game, but it just wasn't, there was nothing funny about it, there was nothing insightful to say. It's literally just the bare minimum requirements of a retail release. All I'll say is I don't ever want us to sink this low again. Maybe one day we might cover Superman.
We have to.
yeah, for everyone like moans about Superman, at least it is kind of ironically enjoyable because it's
True.
Because there are terrible things about it that just make you laugh, not just bored.
Right.
So, yeah, but I don't ever want us to do a game this bland again. And it's not your fault, dude. I'm glad we did it because it gave me an epiphany. But yeah, I'm not even going to give my final thoughts on this game because I don't think it deserves it. So, I'll just revert back to yours if anyone really wants to know. And this will receive my lowest score that I've ever officially given a game in public, and that is a 1 out of 10.
Dang. Brutal.
So
I wouldn't
maybe
be much higher.
Maybe 1.5 or 2, just because the art for the main characters is decent. So maybe a 2.
Okay.
Okay. So, well, thanks for that, Clay. Anyway, I'm glad we got through it quick. It was.
Yeah, we don't want to bore the listeners too much. We're already boring ourselves. So.
Yeah. So, look, come back everyone next week because we are going to turn things right around and we are going to drive right to the other end of the spectrum. Next week we are looking at a stone cold classic, Mario Kart 64. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that one, and that should be one of our longer episodes as well. Every now and again we shoot for closer to like 90 minutes and sometimes end up even longer, so really looking forward to that one. Check us out at kandclay.com to check out more of our content and links to our iTunes feed and YouTube channel. Don't forget, we've recently acquired partner shows like Switch Talk and the Logcast. So check that out. Honestly, there'll be some stuff. There's some stuff that crosses over with people who are interested in the N64, and a couple of other shows coming soon that we're excited about. If you have any thoughts, questions, or game requests, email us at strictly64@gmail.com or tweet us at strictly64. I think that's about it. Thanks for sticking with us on that one, and we promise it will never get this bad again. Okay, see you later, guys.